Welcome to the BVTV Network, coming to you from the UK studios of BizVision. I'm your host, Malcolm Gallagher. Now, this is episode 2 in the BVTV TrustED Trilogy with author Dr. Toby Travis. Hello again, Toby.
Hello, Malcolm. Great to be here again.
Now, I am thoroughly enjoying your book, but I'm thoroughly enjoying the parallels within the book to business, where you talk about a SIT, which is a school improvement team. Well, in business, it's a bit, isn't it, a business improvement team. The parallels are so obvious. Tell us about your 6 leadership components that need to be in place so a school and a business can succeed in continual improvement.
Well, I always like to give full credit to my wife because I had finished a doctoral program. I remember sitting around the kitchen table and looking at all this that I had learned and was trying to figure out how do I articulate this in a way that people will be able to grab a hold of it. And she says, well, sweetie, isn't it really just kind of like a bridge? You got to have all those components working together. And I'm like, brilliant. And that set me back to kind of reorganize all of the research and the findings. Because what we had discovered, there are 6 major components to trust. And if you think about it like a bridge, very quickly, there's a foundation, there's a substructure, there's bearings, there's girders, there's a superstructure, there's the deck. And each of those has a correlation to what leadership looks like. And I won't articulate them all for you, but for example, the foundation of leadership is all about beliefs and values. Are they articulated? Do we know what we believe? And are we communicating it? Is it there? Is it known? Is it central and foundation to what we do? Take the deck of a bridge. A deck is, it looks simple, right? It's a flat surface with some lines and some markings. Well, trusted leaders take complex things and make them clear. We know our direction. We know where we're going. We know what our lane is. So here we're talking about order and clarity. And that's where, again, we use these 6 components of leadership, using that analogy of a bridge, how they all have to be working together. And, here what we've learned too is they all have to be in place. Just like a bridge, it might have great foundation, right? But if it's got potholes in the deck, or there are sections that are missing, you're taking your life in your hands riding or walking on the bridge. Well, same thing in leadership. If you might have someone who has articulated great beliefs and values, but let's say the substructure, and there we talk about connecting and supporting all that the organization is doing to the beliefs and values. It's about consistency. If the leader has expressed, these are my values, these are my beliefs, but then has practices and protocols and procedures in place in the organization that do not reflect those values and beliefs, we're not going to trust them. And that's where we look at assessing these 6 components of trust, ensuring that they're consistent, that they are intertwined, and this is how we build trust.
Yeah, I love bridges, by the way, because I live just north of Newcastle upon Tyne, which is the famous bridge that they modelled the Sydney Harbour Bridge on. But I also know that bridges can't be too rigid. They've got to be able to bend and flex with the climate. Now, are you saying also that you shouldn't regard this trusted thing as rigid? You should be able to bend and go with the flow.
Exactly. So in a suspension bridge, they have what are called bearings, and you really don't even pay attention to them or see them unless you know they're there. These are the moving parts of a bridge. And, so they're flexing based on weather, payload, if there's an earthquake. Well, in leadership here, we talk about trusted leaders are flexible. But what we've learned, Malcolm, is the only way leaders are able to be flexible is if they're involved. And so here we're looking at, okay, what's the level of involvement as the leader in the actual, what I call the nuts and bolts of the organization, or in school setting, in the schools. And in a school setting, it's leaders have to be involved in curriculum, instruction, assessment, learning environment, decisions. No, they don't have to be autocratic about it. That's not the point, but they need to be involved. They can't be leading the organization behind 3 doors of secretaries. In order to be flexible, you've got to be where the action's at. You've got to be interacting with folks. And I'm not talking about micromanaging. I'm talking about you can't be distant in your leadership. And so that's kind of the bearings of trusted leadership: flexibility and involvement.
Yeah, and I suppose it has to be a two-way thing, trust, doesn't it?
Oh,
You
yeah.
can give it down to somebody, but you've got to get it back for them so that they can tell you if there's a flaw in the bridge and not hide it.
Well, one of my favorite quotes is from Abraham Lincoln, who said, "The people, when fully trusted, will return the trust." And he's absolutely right. In fact, I work with individuals and teams on restoring trust. How do we restore trust in our organization or in our leadership team? And one of the things that we talk about and that we develop plans for is, well, extend trust. The more we extend trust to our employees or to those we supervise, the more trust we get in return. It is reciprocal, and it's part of building trust is extending trust.
Yeah. And do you think building trust today is harder because we've got so many dissident, should we say, thoughts, and it's so easy to use social media to spawn very misinformation and so on?
Yeah. And I think, Malcolm, especially in Western culture, it's very cynical. You look at our humor, comedy, TV shows, movies, magazines, is certainly social media. We are a very cynical world right now. And so there's almost assumed, okay, what's the undercurrent here? What's the real story? There's always, we almost start from a place of distrust.
Yeah. I love the book, by the way, Toby, because you see, don't think, viewers, it's all about education. It's not. Throughout, Toby refers in such a nice way, obviously, to education, but links it very much into business. But his own personal stories as well come through. And I think that those teach you just as much as the book in many ways, by the way, Toby. Toby's book, this one. And before that, by the way, let me just remind you of his URL, which you can see on the screen behind me. And for listeners, it's trustedbook.info, trustedbook.info. But this one, the book is called TrustED, The Bridge to School Improvement. And basically, you could swap the word school to business improvement. Very simple. Trust me about that one. And it's published by trustedschool.org. Now, Toby is an expert in school management and developing leaders. But as you've heard me say continuously here, there's a big similarity between school leadership and business leadership. In episode 3, I'm going to ask Toby to help you more clearly to see how to use his trusted concept for your business. So should we flip over to episode 3, Toby?
Absolutely.